Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time for a new album review on the channel, and this time I'm talking about the highly anticipated 14th studio album from Opeth. This album is titled The Last Will and Testament, and it came out on Friday the 22nd of November via Moda Balaje Records, or I think that's how you say that record label name. And the album is 8 tracks and about 50 minutes in length. The album was actually originally due for release on the 11th of October, but was delayed due to manufacturing issues. So, new to the band, we've got a new drummer this time around in Walter Verinen. I think that's how you say his name on drums here. And also, this is bringing back the Michael Ackerfeld growls, which many of us as Opeth fans, I dare say, have missed. And, Michael himself has said he's not brought it back because of the fans, he's brought it back because he thinks that they work in the context of this album and the music on offer. So for me, musically, this album is a bit of a mixture of what I would describe as some of the cleaner moments of Ghost Reveries with Pale Communion and the prog rock and jazz fusiony elements of that record. And you sort of almost like this could be the child of those two albums, I feel, Ghost Reveries and Pale Communion, because obviously it does also reintroduce the Michael Ackerfeld growls. So I felt that this album was, very typically Opeth in the way it's extremely well crafted. It's a very accomplished sounding album, very meticulous down to every single note being played and the way that all the different elements are tied together. It's a really well crafted album and story as well. This is of course the full first time we've had a full concept album from Opeth since Still Life, as I understand it. And the story is about a wealthy patriarch leaving his last will for his family, and some pretty surprising revelations come out of that will. And some family members, I think, aren't too impressed with what's in the will, shall we put it that way. A lot of the story, I think, is actually told, or the songs are sung as though they're from the father's point of view. When I was reading the lyrics, I sort of got that anyway. And so there's quite a lot of anger and bitterness there in the singing. So again, it makes sense that you get some anger and reason to bring back those growls from Michael. If I'm to say something that I would have quite liked for me personally, it's that a couple of the tracks felt like they could have done with some memorable guitar hooks or that heavier, crunchier Opeth sound of old to really boost the sound of that, of the angrier side of Opeth that we are sort of often teased with on this album, but I still feel like it could have benefited from that a bit for me personally. That's not to take away from the craftsmanship or just the brilliance of this album as a sort of final product. And I think if you're not aware of Opeth's past and their past metal albums, the fact that they don't really bring in a lot of that heaviness or crunch so much in this album won't bother you. You probably will appreciate this album for just what it is in and of its own right, and I perfectly respect that. For me, I just did slightly miss that crunch from time to time on some of the tracks, but still, that being said, this is another thoroughly impressive record from the band, and that is the only sort of slight negative thing I have to say about it, because I love the storytelling. I love the way that Michael does use his growls on the album. I love a lot of the lead guitar work and the way that is so brilliantly mixed in with some quite intricate rhythms and jazzy moments on the record. I don't know how Opeth managed to blend in those lead guitar moments into sort of quite complex music. I always find very impressive anyway, from the likes of obviously Michael Ackerfeld and Fredrik Åkesson. Really impressive stuff from that guitar aspect. Also, you do have Ian Anderson. I can't not mention him, of Jethro Tull, bringing in some flute moments and some vocal moments as well, and those sort of feeling like a natural marriage to Opeth's music. I mean, just the back and forth in, I think it's paragraph 4, as it gets called. Something I haven't mentioned is that all the tracks are sort of given this sort of symbol, which at first sight appeared like an S to me, but it actually apparently is the Swedish symbol for paragraph, or something like a paragraph but not a paragraph is what I read, so I'm not totally sure of that, but it's an interesting way of naming the tracks on this album. But the last track does actually have a proper title, A Story Never Told, which was very reminiscent to me of the final track, All Things Will Pass, on In Calda Venenum. A sort of more melodic and slower tempo kind of a song. Actually, for me, I really enjoyed that track. That was kind of on the first listen, a track which really stood out because it's slightly less complex in its arrangements for me than some of the other songs on this record. But just talking a bit more about some of these other tracks as well, I mean, I thought Paragraph 3 had a great rhythm and lead guitar combination. Paragraph 4 had that injection of Ian Anderson's flute work, which I personally really enjoyed. And again, they just felt like a natural marriage with the Opeth guitar work, sort of back and forth arrangement that you had there. Paragraph 7 has for me one of the more memorable guitar parts on the album, with this really interesting, slightly creepy sounding rhythm that just was, you know, kind of mean and again, that's actually a track where I would like that to have sounded even heavier for me. It was kind of this really interesting groove that kind of went dun 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 dun, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it's ultimately another Opeth album that I think you'd actually love this, even if you're a fan more of their later years than you are their earlier years, because it feels still like it's very, very embedded in their later era, despite the bringing back of Michael's growls, which I don't think feature that often on this record, as you know, some people are maybe making out to be. But this is still, for me, at the end of the day, a testament to their discography. But hopefully, it's not their last will. See what I did there? Anyway, I'm going to give this album an 8.5 out of 10. You know, I didn't mean for this review to come across as a negative review, if that's how it came across. I'm still feeling like this is going to be probably one of my favourite albums of the year. It's just there were a couple of moments in particular where I felt like that heavy sound, that crunch, was missed. And maybe the odd memorable guitar hook would have just made this the perfect album for me. But anyway, that's all from me, and until next time, hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to drop a like and sub to the channel if you think you're going to enjoy more of my reviews. But until next time, it's bye for now.